you for playing with me. Thank you. So that's called parallel lines. And as you can see, teaching the concept is tricky, but once your students get it, they get it, right? And it's good for lots of things. How could you use parallel lines? Where's my It's a great way to do it. One thing, since you say the same thing over and over again, is good for fluency, right? Because you practice the same piece of information. So, you could also use it where it might be to say, like an information gap, like, you might have the grade line knows one thing, and the blue line knows something else, right? And so you're saying different things, right? So it's a repetition, but well, good. So I hope you all were able to meet new colleagues or colleagues you have not yet known. I understand that we're in the school, and it's good to meet each other and get acquainted. All right, and a little more information about me. I'm from a state in the United States called Alabama. In the morning session, someone reminded me that Forrest Gump is from Alabama. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Right? So that's my introduction for you. And to think about that, so along the lines of Forrest Gump, if you heard the word Montgomery, this is the capital of the state. Forrest Gump probably lived in this area, right? Because the fictional character, but is actually in this area. I used to live here in Tuscaloosa, and I live here. So, and there is confusion about the universities because they both are, it's kind of like John Westbrook. They've got it or places, right? It's like that. This is University of Alabama. This one, this one, we call it UAB, like UNA. Okay. All right. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you some big ideas, kind of a reminder of how, and then to get to the curriculum of that, talk a little bit about a little theory, a little methods,
Now I think that we are a little bit better because of the practice we have. But anyhow, there are things that in our culture, I already always have thought about this. The culture is not adapted to the learning in the way that I mean is that we're used to teach our kids from the very early ages that they have to learn a new language. And that is a problem, because it's a cultural problem. That is a struggle with that, and you have parents, they don't want the children, or they want the children to speak, because they don't use English in their houses, and the only place where they use and they can try to speak is the school. And also we have the problem that many kids don't want to learn English. It's like a barrier. And that is psychological, cultural, emotional, all that stuff. So then you have to have a lot of strategies. You have to be like very flexible when it's times. And so that is what I mean. That is most of the problem that we have. Is not that a matter of if we teach well or if we do it, but it's like a culture, people's customs, and all that stuff.
Thank you for sharing that. That was so helpful and informative. I didn't know that. And it's important to understand. I have so many thoughts in my head. It's like, I don't know which one to come up first. So I think that, okay, I'll have to kind of sit on that for a minute. And that's a big piece of information, and I'll have to kind of absorb that. But I think that it will be helpful as we talk through the rest of this information, because knowing that the children don't want to learn are because of a psychological, cultural barrier. That's interesting. It's good to know. Why is that, do you think? Why do you think? Why is that? That's new information for me. I'm so curious.
I don't know if they agree. Maybe it's my opinion.
You know what I would do? I have this guy in 5th grade, and I was talking about the importance of English nowadays. And he said, "No, teacher, I don't care English because I'm not going to travel. I'm going to stay in Costa Rica." And I said, "But you are a kid, and you are going to have a future. You are going to go to high school, and you are going to meet new people." But he said, "No, I don't have the chance to travel. I don't want to learn English. It's something very difficult." I understand it. I got you. I have the same problem.
Yeah, it's complicated too. Because I think, I don't want to get too far off the track, but it's a complex problem. English is a global language, and as such, it's there are a lot of geopolitics that come into play. Is everybody familiar with the word geopolitics? So it has to do with geography and politics of geography and nations, right? So it's international politics and power at a global level, and English is very much intertwined into those power dynamics, right? So
I think that we even have come to this part of the competition. That is our first problem. I mean, if in Costa Rican families we had that culture of competition, that in this part, I mean, okay, this kid knows English. Why does he know English? Because their family speaks English. And then the other family is gonna feel like that kind of competition, and then you have that in all people, and that is what happens, for example, in Europe. You have to teach your kids, no? I don't know what happens in the United States now, but I know that I don't know many volunteers, students, and I see them trying to speak Spanish in Europe and Costa Rica. And we don't have that kind of thinking. People, or not many people, want to speak English because they don't feel like doing it because it's not cultural, because they're not that competition. Now the things are changing a little bit because you go to ask for any job and people know you need English for this job, any job. And that is what is coming to face people to this reality, and now there is a different movement in the society. but I think it is a little bit depends. So you do have a competition, so or the people that don't speak about this, kids speaking English or using other languages, then that does happen. And we're very, how to say this, conformistas.
Yeah, conforming. Yeah. So it's I'll say it's an underlying problem and a whole topic unto itself, and we could talk about it for the next 2 hours, but I'm not sure we should. So I would rather come and talk to you about it when I've prepared something. It's very interesting. I'm really glad you said something. That changes kind of changes everything. But I don't think the problems are too complex. I have to work. I have to think about that. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and go on with what I've got, and we'll think about what you've mentioned and see if we can bring it in to make it relevant. Because one of the things that's really important to me when I talk to people is that I want to make sure that whatever I say or the ideas that I share are relevant. Because teachers are busy, and I want you to have something in your mind, in your hand, that you take away to use, right? So with that in mind, let's move on. Okay, yep, so some big ideas about English teaching. This was based on my understanding of the curriculum. So I read through the curriculum, and I can understand, I appreciate your perspective about how it might have been overwhelming when it was new. It's very ambitious and it's very rigorous, but the mission behind it, the underlying principles are really beautiful, right? And I think speak to the culture. Not a competitive or individualistic culture, but a collective culture, right? Where it's about the community. So anyway, all right. The linguistic principles, the theory behind the task-based learning comes from this is one theory that comes from the method that's used in your curriculum. So Stephen Krashen, does that ring a bell for anybody? A couple people, yeah? Okay. So Stephen Krashen in the 1980s, he's a linguist, and he developed a series of hypotheses. It's called the monitor model. It's about language acquisition. And the first thing he did was he talked about acquiring language acquisition, and learning language. Can anyone give me the distinction, the difference that Krashen made? Does anyone know or can tell me?
You acquire language or you learn language. Adults learn language. Kids acquire. That is the basic meaning I have about that.
Yeah, so, yeah. And where you're coming from with that is human development, because acquisition comes from first language acquisition when we have children or we are babies and we acquire the language, right? It's implicit. We don't know we're acquiring it. The learning part is what we're doing. It's when you are conscious and the teacher tells you things. Okay, so before the 1980s, language learning was very formalized, and people learned how to conjugate verbs, but not how to speak. So there was a big shift in the 1980s because everyone wanted to learn a language to speak. Okay, so acquisition became the term. All right, this is about the editor in your head when you're saying something and you're like, oh, that's how we'll say it. Okay, so he said that was an inhibitor. Input, this is what I'm giving you input. It's information through language. You are using your receptive language skills, listening, but that's tricky because listening is internal and cognitive. The only way I think I know you're listening is because you're very quiet, you're sitting properly, you're looking at me, but you might be thinking about your supper, right? I don't know. But that's all. Anyway, so comprehensible input. And that's what you do with your children because as brand new learners, they're unable to produce output. They cannot speak in English yet, right? Okay, we'll say that one for a second. And the natural order hypothesis. This one is Krashen hypothesized that there were certain grammar features that a learner it was a predictable order in which it was learned. For English, the third person singular S, right? I walk, you walk, he walks. We walk, they walk, you walk. It's the only way, it's a difference, it's an exception, so it would make sense that it's last to learn. All right, now this one, does anyone know about the affective filter? Can anyone say? Do you know the word effective? Not with an E, but an A. Affect. Right? It has to do with emotions. And so the affective filter was the higher, so it has to do with anxiety, and it's like a balance, it's a corresponding scale. The higher the level of anxiety, the lower the amount of learning occurred in a learning situation. Okay? All right, so enough of that. We're going to get to our topic in a second. So, like I said, what I read in the curriculum, you've got the task-based language teaching. These are some of, and the task-based language teaching is based on the theories in part from Krashen and other scholars who thought in the same way about language acquisition. So basically, I think one of the interesting things about task-based learning, I like this method actually because it uses authentic, real learning material. It's a real life situation where the learner is managing something that's not contrived, that's not created, right? It might be like, oh, it's a simulation, it's going to the doctor, it's going to, it might be working on social media, something that would happen in real life. All right, and learners have to rely on their own skills. So they have to either use their body or something else. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do is, and I'm going to ask you to turn and talk to your neighbor frequently, every other slide or so. Okay? That way we won't fall asleep. It's after lunch, it's warm, I understand. And you've already had one training. So everybody should have a partner, right? It's like, and if it's an odd number, a group of 3, right? So make eye contact with your partner. Make sure you got a group. Alright. Now make sure you're okay. So what I'd like for you to do is, so I would like for you to talk with each other for a short time, a minute or two, about, well, I'm sorry, let me back up for a second. I want to talk about social and emotional learning. But first, I want to ask you a question. This is a KWL. Do you know what this is?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Good. Thank you for answering. All right. So, a KWL is, I looked it up, it's called a graphic organizer. A graphic organizer. Do you know, I bet you know this one. This one is a Venn diagram where you go like this. You've got 2 circles. Right? You know that one? Venn diagram. Okay, that is also a graphic organizer. And it's helpful with English learners, or any learners, but language learners, because you write a few words, a little amount of language, but you have abstract or complex thoughts. All of you and your learners have complex thoughts, but sometimes it's difficult to get them out. So the graphic organizer enables you to compare and contrast. You write differences here and similarities here. One word, right? Not much language, but you get an abstract concept. Okay, so this is what I already know about social and emotional learning. And then we're going to call it SEL for short, okay? So this is what you already know. And this is what you want to know, all right? And so actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass out. So I want you to get started. I am going to give you all a few of these sticky notes. And if you have a question and you want to share, and you want me to know about it, come up here and put the sticky note with your question here so that I can see it, all right? Okay, all right, so go ahead and start talking. I'll give you a couple of sticky notes.
It's about, in my case, I think it's about emotions and how to make the students to feel comfortable in the classroom and use the language to express their ideas, feeling in that way.
Yes, exactly. And that's how it connects back to the affective filter from passion, because we want to lower that anxiety so that we can raise learning, right? So yes, that's exactly what it's about. It's about talking about maybe where the problems are, and then they're not really solutions, but I have more activities or suggestions, and we'll get into that in detail. Other thoughts. So we know what it is now. What about want to know?
How to apply.
Yeah, of course, right? How to apply it, absolutely. Okay, good. And that's what we'll talk about. Okay, and then these two boxes are great because they're for, oh, yay! Okay. Yay! All right, those two gray boxes are for the end. All right, so when we come back around, we'll talk about the gray boxes. All right, so let me turn the projector back on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start over. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, good. All right, off we go. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to define it real quickly for you. Okay, so as you thought, some of the elements are the awareness of self and others. That's a real basic one, and it would be important for young children to understand that. Decision-making skills. This one comes up over and over again. We're going to talk about that a lot. Different kinds of communication strategies, of course, and then empathy. That is like the big, broad connection. All right, so some of the potential benefits. Of course, the relationship skills, that's sort of obvious. What I thought was interesting was maybe becoming a lifelong learner. And then it has the potential, we're going to talk about a framework that focuses more at the school level, in which then the school, family, and community has an option. And I think this is where, you know, we could begin to address some of the issues that you're talking about there. However, that does require a school level effort, all right? And so what I've done is actually I focus more on the classroom, right? Because I don't expect you walking out of here thinking you're going to change your school and change the world. That's a big ask. But the framework exists. It is bringing in some of these elements. It is about feeling comfortable and welcomed in the school, but it's also, there's more to it because it does go back to those communication skills and decision making. And then that can then build this long-term success, I think, not only in school, but in life in general, right? People skills, soft skills, with artificial intelligence quickly moving forward. Oh, sorry. Your wrist, okay. Okay, got it. With artificial intelligence really moving forward quickly, the advantage that we humans have is that we have the social and emotional, and that is the advantage that we have, and so it's important to develop it. And then, and that kind of goes into this one, the complexities of modern life, right? Not to mention that we have global warming and we have all these, crazy things going on. So this is the framework that I talked about. And it's, okay, so what you see here, these are the competencies, and we're going to go through these over and over again. We're going to talk about them. We're going to kind of drill down, and then we'll look at activities to see how they fit. But these are the areas that the social and emotional learning focus on, right? Again, becoming aware of self. Self-management means to think about your thoughts in relation to your feelings, in relation to your behavior. Decision-making, building relationships, and being aware of having social awareness. So, yep. Okay. All right, so the domains, that one, I'm going to skip that one because I don't think it's helpful to me. All right, so social competencies. This goes back again to here, some of that repetition, but we get a little more explanation in that self-awareness is about the emotions you have. The managing is also called self-regulating. And, when we have thoughts, when we have emotions, we have a thought behind it, right? We don't, it happens so fast, or maybe it's a thought that happens so often, we don't even know, right? You have to work to really kind of identify that thought, but you have the emotion, and if you don't have some skills, if you don't have a good decision-making way, that gets you in trouble, right? It could get us as adults in trouble, right? It doesn't matter the age. If we have a thought, an emotion, and we don't regulate that emotion and do something aggressive or illegal or whatever we do, we'll get in trouble. So that's really kind of what this is all about. That social awareness, this again made me think of the curriculum because it talked about empathy, about community, about becoming a responsible citizen, and it had language in the curriculum that I've not seen before, and so it really, I made some powerful connections. All right, so last slide is your talk. I wanted to drill down and give you examples for elementary students because the competencies are very broad, right? So, and also there's a question of human development. While an adult acts one way, a 6-year-old could act in the same way, but there is a human development question going on. So our expectations for young children would be that they build a friendship and keep it, right? You don't have a kid that's like walking around through everybody's, being a friend here and then a friend over here. It's learning how to build a relationship and keep that. To have a stable peer reputation so that as a second grader, my behavior is regulated, the teacher knows what I'm going to do, my friends know what I'm going to do, and everybody, doesn't expect me to blow up and have a tantrum, right? So that would be along the lines of controlling those aggressive impulses. And I don't know if that's a problem for you all. And we're gonna, so as I go through, be thinking about examples or things that have happened, because I am gonna ask you to talk about it. Demonstrating emotional regulation with your peer group. It's kind of the same thing, but it's kind of pared down. This is just being a nice person for a second grader, not hitting people, right? Showing emotions in the appropriate context. If someone comes up to me, the second grader, and says, "Oh, my cat died last night," then the appropriate emotion is not to go, no. That child feels sad, right? I'm not going to laugh. That's not okay, right? So, and then this is about all the strategies. So we're going to look at that. Okay. Those are the competencies. Now I'm going to get you to talk about it. Ready? I'll put them back up there for you to look at. Get with your group. Okay? Talk about it with each other. Brainstorm examples from your classrooms. What have you seen? Maybe in terms of these are in terms of the positive behaviors. Do you see the opposite? Have you experienced the negative behaviors? Do you see fights, right? Do you see people who show emotions that are not appropriate? So, talk. So we've got emotion charades, concentration, and practicing some synonyms, and I'll show this to you in a minute. First, let's talk about this. This is a memory game, playing the cards. Does everybody know it? Yeah. Okay, great. Super. What about emotion charades? You can probably figure it out, right? Yeah. In fact, oh yeah. Okay. So first, I'm going to put this in a different order. Okay. All right. So yeah. So this is an emotions thermometer for the word angry. Angry is here. And you would start here at cold or not so bad, and you work your way up, right? To just like, yeah. So this is, I think, an interesting way to talk about adverbs or adjectives, because there are nuances of meaning. And if you, now, I guess maybe for your younger students, not so much, but you could have a similar version for your older students to think about the difference between annoyed, angry, and, infuriated, for example, right? Is there any word that's new for you? Incensed. Yeah, this is new in the morning as well, incensed. And it's just pissed off. It's just mad, right? Angry. Exasperated has more of a, I'm just done, so done. And then, infuriated is just, you're ready to kill somebody. So this is, it's subjective, right? So you might have a slightly different order to your list, because there are between these two, and these three, there's a very tight nuance. They're very, in terms of the meaning, they're tightly related, right? This is pretty angry. All of this is just pretty angry. It's just slightly different meanings. So, anyway, all right. So there we are. Yeah? Okay, so that's one way to think about it. But I did want to practice. I want us to play charades. So I'm going to start, and I have some words here for you. Okay, ready? Here's the first one. You're going to guess the emotion. Good. All right. What about?
Curious.
Yes. Good. Yes. But let me look. Okay. And then there's another word.
Worry.
it probably looks like worry. Okay, let's see, what about this one? Proud, right? Okay, so those are easy to guess. But maybe you can turn around and play with your partner for a minute. You practice. If you've got, say, 5 minutes that you need to fill, right? And you could. Right? So you can just get up here and start acting silly, and maybe your students will, after a while, they'll catch on and start thinking about what word you might use. Okay, and that's important. Triggers an emotion that then triggers a behavior. So those 3 things are very important. The thought, to catch the thought, is very difficult because it will happen unconsciously. It'll happen so fast you don't know. But you can feel emotions in your body, and it's important to name them. It's very important to name your emotions. So it is important for all of us to name our emotions, right? Because if we feel something and we don't really know what it is, but it causes us to act as like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That was the thought, the emotion, and the behavior that maybe wasn't appropriate. And that happens to all of us, right? And it can have problematic effects, I think, for all of us, but particularly children. So that is where some of the past that you can share with your colleagues. What did you talk about?
Partner reading, actually, what is what I do is take a text. Based on Google, and use it for the later. Play the sound with that. At the same time they are reading, they are following the audio. And so they read, they listen, and they repeat.
That's great.
What I do. I was curious about this part of journalism, but in a real situation, because as I said, because I don't know what can we do, and it is something that you have to be careful about, because that would be wonderful to have somebody to chat with in other countries like people. But how do we do that? That's the first question. And the second question, something that is serious, that you careful about what person are you going to talk.
Of course. And so I'm offering to ask real teachers from Birmingham in different school systems, because I know teachers in 6 school systems, and I have students who teach, and I'm offering to ask, and it's not a promise, but I would ask if there is a teacher interested in collaborating with you, the teachers. And then I think it would be up to you, the teachers, as professionals, to decide how and what you want your kids to talk about. You know, I mean, I'm putting it here under social and emotional learning, but it's, you know, because I mean, there's lots of possibilities, but this is, so it's an offer on my part. That's what the paper is for. If you're interested, then you write your name down, you write your email address, you write the grade you teach. And my promise is to go and ask a teacher if he or she would like to do that with you. And then I connect your emails, I introduce you, and then the rest would be up to you.
I was thinking about this maybe different way. In the classroom, as we have most of the schools, I think, have internet, we can make like a kind of meeting, and then by Zoom, you have a person who speaks English, and you have some opportunities for students to ask questions or interact with how that would be one.
That would be great. See, I mean,
Yes, idea.
right? The possibilities are unlimited. That was just one idea I had, but I'm offering to connect you with a teacher who teaches a similar age. So you would have a similar age group, right? And ideally, most of the teachers I know are English as a second language teacher because that's what I do. I am preparing teachers to work with children and adults who are learning a new language, right? That's what I do. And so the teachers that I know are ESL teachers. They have English learners, many of whom are Spanish speakers, right? So I don't know, you know, or it might be nice if you. I also know classroom teachers, and you might want to have classroom kids filled with monolingual English speakers, right? That might be more appealing. So I do think that what comes of the connection would depend on the teacher and you, right? That's up to you. But yeah, it could be anything, right? But no, it's real kids, real teachers, and teachers that I know. That's what that is.
Good ideas. Because I was thinking about that. The most I have done is, okay, writing a paper, you pretend you have a meatball, and you write the paper to this person, you think he or she is from wherever.
Right. But the Zoom idea is great. If you did it like with a class, then, you know, the kids can see each other. I mean, there's technology is great. You can do lots of things. All right. And did you have another question?
No.
That was it. Okay. And what other thoughts? What else did you all talk about?
We were talking also about when we are in the classroom, and sometimes we ask to our students about how do they feel today. And they say, well, happy. And sometimes they say, sad or angry, and sometimes you ask them, are you sad? And they say, no, teacher, I'm happy. But I
Okay, so this is a slide about just sort of general ideas. And the first one I think is important is the daily routine. Since you all teach multiple grades, I would be surprised if you had the ability to have a specific time where you could dedicate something like this. I think it's more realistic for you to, as I mentioned earlier, just kind of slip it in somewhere. If you're doing a vocabulary, if you're if you can probably add an emotion word to almost anything you teach, right? So you can kind of tuck in these emotion words here and there. You can do some review, like play the charades, you can play bingo, you can play tic-tac-toe. There's so many things you can do with vocabulary. And so that's what the top box is. And then these others, so the managing the stress part. And by the way, this slide in particular, well, some of the things that we've been talking about earlier also pertain to you, right? I've not really highlighted that yet, but it's important to, and I guess I have it because it's running together. So to keep yourself healthy and manage stress. So I don't know if you've ever tried breathing exercises. They've gotten very popular in the States, and teachers are now using them in class, even with children as young as 3rd grade. It would take a while to develop that routine. I think it would take a lot of practice. And that may not be your jam. That may not be something you're interested in. But I like the idea of the gratitude check-ins. Again, you can teach the word grateful. And think about what we have, right? What do we have today? Oh, I have my baby sister, I have my mom, whatever, right? And those gratitude check-ins, that you can write the word, verbal, drawn, whatever, so many ways. Now the last two on the bottom, I love this one is the collage. What is it? Do you know a collage? Do you know that? Do you know what a collage is? Yeah. Okay, good.
We just created one this morning.
Oh, okay. All right then. All right, perfect. Okay, so the friendship collage then I think is really nice because it allows the artist, the child, to define the characteristics. What is it that makes a friend? There's some analysis going on there. They have to name the quality. What makes a good friend, right? Because they're creating that collage that represents friendship. So somebody who is, again, you have to think of words like reliable, trustworthy, friendly, nice, whatever it is, but you've got to build in that vocabulary. You can have images, of course, wherever you go. So, and the last one I really also love, this one is very ad hoc, as it were. You don't have to have a lesson or even an activity. It's more like you have Post-its, you can put them in a special place, and it's a place for them to give a positive comment or a compliment to their classmates, right? And so, you can kind of have a bulletin board or just the wall, and you can just have those little stickies there, and it might be really nice for someone to go up and see that they got a compliment, right? That makes us all feel really good. So, can you think of I tell you what, why don't you turn back to your partner and, what time, I'm sorry, okay, turn to your partner and talk about some ideas that you might have for creating that welcoming classroom. You might already be doing some things.
Thank you.
The first date of
Thursday.
I put I made bubbles in front of children, and I asked to make a picture of the face and talk about to do something information. Share some information.
Listen to this, what you did on the first day of school.
Okay, I was saying that in my first day of class to receive my students, I make couples. They sit down in front of each other, and I ask them to make a picture about the face of the kid and share some information about their personal life. Also, I go to the whiteboard to make a and make some circles about that. And then each student will have to paste the pictures and they have to recognize themselves.
I do something, but then the third day of school, because first day they cry, what I do is like a poster with sometimes greetings, shake your hands, high five, greet me with your legs.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's nice. That's great.
Another kids is what is this guy? Who's the lady there? And guess who is the student?
Oh, I love that.
And share some information.
That's great. I love that. And then they say,
And I call that activity, it's mine, I invent, and it's the friendship free.
That's brilliant. I love it.
Thank you.
Would you mind sharing it with the class in a minute?
If you want,
I would. Would you mind? That'd be okay.
to explain it.
Yeah.
Okay?
You are the chosen.
You're the guilty.